This program is brought to you by the Genesis Communications Network, a world leader in talk radio since 1998. Visit GCNlive.com today.
You're in the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
So one sign of getting older is when we elderly people, I'm speaking for myself, not for Chris, start speaking about our various ailments. And Chris has had some respiratory stuff going on for a while. And I keep referring to it as creeping rot, which is a phrase that I used to use with my old friend Jim Mosley before he really became sick. You're not suffering from that. You're suffering from something that you got on the Native American reservation, Chris?
I think so. The first time that I really, I got it, and I've never been able to really shake it. It just kind of fades away. I never really actually shake it. It's pretty nasty. Basically my lungs shut down when it gets really bad, and the cilia in my lungs freeze. Basically, they, for some reason, they go into like shock, and it's rather perplexing, and it's rather uncomfortable when it happens. So just it ebbs and flows.
This is not a consequence of smoking for 100 years, is it?
No, I don't think so. I first got it, in 2009. I'm almost positive. I keep getting reoccurring episodes every couple, 3 years. Boom, it comes back and nails me. But I don't really think I ever get rid of it. I think it just slowly fades away, and then I'm fine for, the next 2 or 3, 4 years even. And, oh, well, here we are, and there you go.
Well, and so we are immersed in it.
I'm getting through it. I caught it up, in one of the oldest gatherings of people in North America, So, who knows what kind of paleo stuff could be hanging around. The babies, when I was up there that particular winter, that Chalico time period, everybody had the sniffles, was coughing, below zero outside, and steam just, the door would open, in the ceremonial house with 300 hot, sweaty, some sick Indians. That door would open and the steam would just boil out of this place. It was quite surreal.
Speaking of surreal, our guest last week, Sean Correa, was a little bit surreal. This is one of the few times I've seen near unanimity in listener reactions, except one person felt you went a little overboard on him. But this guy really seemed to be smoke and mirrors. He had nothing there. He supposedly wants to set up this program to raise $1 million to have these, fast response teams that would go out and contact ET, I guess.
Yeah. Hey, good luck with that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I noticed that as of the last time I checked that nobody has contributed any further to his GoFundMe campaign. Despite his promises to update the site, it hasn't been updated. And we have one of our active forum members who's currently researching some of his credentials. He claims to have worked with Forrester Research and Gartner Group. These are two very major companies that do surveys in the tech industry. And if Sean Correa worked and had high-profile positions for either, we'll get confirmation.
Well,
or maybe we have another Phil Imbrogno there. I don't know. I'm not making any guesses here, okay, folks?
Yeah. Don't front load. Allow the facts to speak for themselves.
No facts before the evidence. Once we get the word, we'll post it in our forums. We'll mention it on the show. In the meantime, as I said, he's got a lot to prove. It's not our obligation to prove that his venture can't work.
Right.
It's his obligation to prove that it can. And so far, he hasn't updated that site.
Well, time will tell. We'll just have to, keep reminding him. We'll do kind of a little email program. Remind everybody, we have to send our reminder to Sean.
Yeah. Oh, well. He's the only one I think I've ever met who claimed that Stephen Greer's excursions to find E.T. actually worked. No one else ever has said that, have they?
No, I disagree. Like I said, when he first started coming to Crestone, the first 3-4 years, every time he came, there'd be tons of activity in around the valley, everywhere but around Crestone. There'd be stuff popping up all over, but everywhere except for where Greer and his group were.
So therefore, his efforts repelled E.T. and sent them across town.
I told him he forgot to give directions. It was bizarre. It happened not once, not twice, 3 years in a row. And all sorts of stuff go on everywhere around the valley, but in right there in the Baca.
Well, maybe E.T. resents charging for the service. Oh, by the way, I just checked the Anonymous Uprising program on GoFundMe. They got another $50.
Cool.
And another $5. So $55. And one says here, at 87, I'm not likely to join any contact expeditions, but I want to push your work forward. So at this rate, I think it'll take, 30 years for him to get the money. And we wish him luck. Speaking of which, we have a war-centered guest on the show this week, and that's Erica Lukes. Tell us more, Chris.
Where do I begin? Erica first kind of popped up on my radar as the state director of the Utah MUFON branch. And, of course, Ron Regier, a longtime friend of the show and a very close and dear friend of mine, was one of Erica's predecessors in terms of, running MUFON there. And Ron even ran for public office a couple of times. The notorious Skinwalker Ranch District. Anyway, Erica is a fairly, I think, accomplished, knowledgeable field investigator. She does seem to know what she's talking about. And I recently had a chance to speak with her and get to know her a little bit because of the recent little controversy that kind of sprung up with her name kind of loosely attached. But anyway, we're going to have some fun talking with Erica. Also, talking about the role of women in ufology and some of the issues that Erica has been bringing up online and elsewhere. So it should be an interesting and I think a thought-provoking show.
We'll definitely bring up the matter of Isaac Coy and his departure, or at least semi-departure from the field. Apparently he is lurking. He's still there, but isn't really that active anymore. It's going to be interesting. Erica Lukes, With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, I want to tell you about my favorite graphics app. It's the award-winning Graphic Converter. You know, Graphic Converter is the universal genius for photo editing on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for this Swiss Army knife photo editing app. It gives you all you expect from a top-flight image editing app with tons of features, and most important, it's easy to use. It's also far less expensive than that other app that you can only get by subscription. You know, the one I'm talking about. What's more, you can get 20% off with your order right now. So write this down to learn about Graphic Converter. Go to www.lemkesoft.de/Gene. Let me spell that. www.lemkesoft.de/Gene.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-615-7709. That's 800-615-7709. 800-615-7709.
Had it been the sweet Paris air permeating the night? The intoxicating way her beauty had overtaken him? Whatever the case back then, Jordan Dunleavy is still in love with the memory of Lauren, the woman he'd lost so many years before. In Bookstore on the Seine, the journey of a conspiracy analyst, author C.L. Hendeman ties conspiracy theories, mystery, irony, and romance into this stimulating novel that masterfully interweaves the past with the present. Available on Amazon and Kindle and at bookstoreontheseine.com. That's SEINE.com. Bookstoreontheseine.com.
Are you happy washing your hands with harsh chemicals? Are you happy doing laundry with detergents? Are you happy paying high prices? Find your happiness with Pure Soap. These all-natural, earth-friendly Pure Soaps are the very best you've ever used. Buy in bulk. Get a 12, 36, or 48-month supply, or get items individually and still save big. You're getting soap products twice as good as what you're using now, earth-friendly and natural soaps. Your family deserves the best. Happiness is 5starsoap.com. Why not put your money up the drain for a change? See them at 5starsoap.com or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog. Cal Ben Soap Company can save you thousands of dollars and give you good old-fashioned real soaps that are triple concentrated. Soaps made from vegetable and coconut oils. See their full selection of soaps at 5starsoap.com. That's F-I-V-E starsoap.com. Or call 1-800-340-7091 for a catalog.
This is Ben Gordon, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. There's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes, and you're done. To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-290-8480. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-290-8480. That's 1-800-290-8480.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
So Erica Lukes was champing at the bit to get on here with me and Chris. And we were briefly talking to my son Grayson, who was here on a visit from Madrid and is lurking in the background, and maybe will step up to the mic or not, depending on his point of view. Erica, welcome back to the Paracast.
Well, thank you. It's always fun to be here. And I think the world of you and Chris, who was on my show last week. So this will be fun.
Yeah, I was an invited drop-in surprise guest.
I know. Thank you so much. That was a very nice surprise guest.
I put off my dinner for that.
Definitely was. Pleasantly.
That's the only compliment Chris is going to give me this year, so I better suck it up.
Well, no, I think it's the only time that you've actually ever called in on a show. That was great, actually.
Well, I'm never notified of when you're on, so that's part of it right there.
Well,
you're supposed to say it was because it was my show and you wanted to be nice and come on.
Yeah, it was your show, and it was nice that he came on. It was great.
I like that. Thank you.
Good timing.
Erica, you've been a busy bee since we talked to you last. And some of that is you've gotten involved in what we call a typical ufology issue. And I guess we should really get this out of the way because this has been a subject of discussion in our forums and elsewhere. All right. So we have this researcher from the UK. Isaac Coy is his pseudonym. He says he's a barrister in the UK, and the sensitivity of his employment or whatever, he doesn't want to be known to be a UFO buff. So he uses another name. Now, this got to be pretty crazy here. Supposedly, he was led to believe his real name would be exposed. Erica, what's going on? Because your name has been linked to some of this.
You know what? Honestly, this was the weirdest thing I've ever seen. And it all started because we were in a private Facebook conversation. We were talking about Chris Rotowski posted an article that Isaac had written about. He was debunking a photograph, an old photograph, and whatever. I know everyone's debunked it, and that's great. But I made a comment that we should wait until we read what the author is saying about this photo and the new information that he supposedly has. And, that was about it. And it was kind of at that point when a couple trolls kind of stepped in and started being pretty nasty, especially towards me. And that it was just kind of one thing after another. And Ted Rowe made a point of saying when we have articles or when we're talking about things, typically we have to verify a source for things to be, that's what you do in research. You verify sources. And since Isaac was using a pseudonym, it was hard to verify his source. So that little bit of it, and there was much, much more to the whole conversation. Isaac was never involved in that, but apparently one of his friends, it's somebody that he hangs out with, took that and then posted something pretty derogatory on another thread about Ted. And then it just went into this big debacle, where people were saying that, Ted was going to out him, which was never said. And we've, I think, pretty publicly said, where's the proof of this? And none has been provided. So it was just an interesting experience to see how conversations taken out of context, which happens, that happens, unfortunately, all too much.
Yeah. As soon as you respond, it's like watching a football game and all of a sudden there's a pushing and shoving in the middle of the field. And it's always the guy that reacts. Never the guy that does something first. He gets busted. It's the guy that reacts to it.
And it was,
It's constant. As soon as you react and take a stand on something, as well-intentioned as you may be, certain, I guess, percentage of people will take exception to it.
It was so strange. And I think that the thing that was really concerning to both Ted and myself is the fact that, we started to receive all sorts of nasty comments. And in particular, there were a couple comments threatening Ted's life on his Facebook page.
Whoa. Okay, just before we even get that.
Wow.
And I want to ask you, first of all, to go back a little bit. So just to clarify this whole thing, Ted Rowe, who's also with NARCAP, and he has this other organization, Erica Lukes, you didn't threaten, or Ted didn't threaten Isaac with disclosure of his real name. It was some other person.
It was a conversation taken out of context, and Ted had stated very often that he would never do that to somebody for ethical reasons. He's a good man, and I know that is the case, and it was just a very strange twisting of things, I think, for self-serving purposes, and it was very bizarre, honestly. Now,
has anyone reached out to Isaac and said, hey, we didn't do this, we're not here to out you?
It's my understanding that Ted did try to reach out to him. I think that it's very odd that, being a professional, that somebody wouldn't. If I heard something like this, I would reach out to the individual on a private message and say, hey, I heard this is what's going on. Can we talk about it like adults? That's how I would choose to do things. I wouldn't get people stirred up and get them, so stirred up that they're threatening other people, for God's sakes. That was just weird. It's just unacceptable.
Now, the point being here is that you mentioned before the statement from Ted Rowe about verifying your source. But in this case here, Isaac was not the source. He had dealt with another source. But even then, I don't know what his position is or what his level of trust is, which may not be that much anymore. But if he was the source of something, the one and final source, and someone said to him, as a journalist, I'll keep your name confidential, tell me who you are, he may or may not respond, but that's one way to approach the subject.
Right. And I think that, for Chris and I had this conversation on my show last week, but I think when you're a researcher and you're out there, you put your name out there. And that's just something that we all do at the risk of, impacting our loved ones or our businesses or our standing in the community and all of these things. And that's just what we do. And if you're simply an archivist, then that's great. You don't need to verify your source, but when you're coming to conclusions and voicing your opinions about things, that's when I think it is important to use a real name. But, that's my own opinion.
In a perfect world.
Anyway, this is the world where things are turning topsy-turvy around the globe this year. We really need ET's help. Seriously speaking, Erica Lukes is here with Gene and Chris. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We use cell phones against our heads every day. But now a landmark U.S. government study confirms increased health risks from exposure to EMF radiation emitted from these devices. The time to protect yourself is now. The solution is Defender Shield. Proudly made in the USA, Defender Shield blocks virtually 100% of EMF radiation emitted from cell phones, tablets, and laptops. Buy now at DefenderShield.com. Use discount code DEFENDER for 10% off. DefenderShield.com, the worldwide leader in EMF radiation protection.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
Warning, if you're drowning in debt you can't afford, do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to pay it all back, because you don't. What the credit card companies don't want you to know is that there's actually a way to get debt-free without paying off your entire debt or going bankrupt. If you have $5,000 or more in credit card debt, you now have the right to settle that debt for a fraction of what you owe. For free information, call Credit Associates now. 1-800-959-5759. We'll even show you how much money you could save. If you can't afford to pay off all your debt, Do not let the credit card companies trick you into thinking that you have to. Call Credit Associates now for free information on how to get debt-free faster than you ever thought possible without debt consolidation or bankruptcy. We depend on your success and offer a guarantee, so there's no risk. For free information, call now. 1-800-959-5759. That's 1-800-959-5759. 1-800-959-5759.
Hello, I'm Mike Lindell, the inventor of MyPillow, and like all of you out there, I had problems sleeping. Pillows would go flat, I would flip-flop all night long, I would wake up with a sore neck, maybe a headache, or feel like I needed a nap even though I slept 8 hours. When I invented MyPillow, I wanted it to where you can move the patented fill to give you the exact support you need as an individual, regardless of sleep position. MyPillow will get you into that deep REM sleep faster, and you will stay there longer. It's not about how much time we spend in bed, it's about how much of that quality sleep we get. I do all of my own manufacturing right here in the United States. I have a 10-year warranty. You can wash and dry my pillow, and I give you a 60-day money-back guarantee, so you have nothing to lose. And here's my best offer ever. You can buy one of my pillows and get one absolutely free.
Go to mypillow.com or call 800-870-0305 and use promo code GCN. That's mypillow.com or 800-870-0305 with promo code GCN.
Are you worried about your mom or dad living alone in their house? Hi, I'm Joan London. Listen, I know how difficult it is to find senior care for someone you love. That's why I recommend a free service called A Place for Mom. They are the nation's largest senior living referral service. Call A Place for Mom today.
To receive free information on senior living communities in your area, call A Place for Mom at 1-800-704-6182.
A Place for Mom offers free one-on-one advice from local advisors and a personalized list of senior living communities you can visit. If you have questions about senior care for your mom or dad, there's a place for answers, A Place for Mom.
Call A Place for Mom in the next 10 minutes to get your free ebook on financing senior care as well as free information on senior living communities in your area. Call 1-800-704-6182. That's 1-800-704-6182.
Hi, it's Grant Cameron from presidentialufo.com. You're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
I want to tell you something before we go on. I know you've just heard announcements, but we've got one other thing to sell you, and this is the way to get rid of announcements. It's called the Paracast Plus. Go to plus.theparacast.com. That's Plus. Theparacast.com. And what we offer is a commercial-free version of this show. We offer the After the Paracast podcast where anything can happen, and because it's outside the purview of the FCC, it can be frank. And sometimes we have people named Frank there, but not recently, but it could be pretty frank. We also offer videos and other shows. Paul Kimball's Other Side of Truth is now featured. You get all this good stuff for prices that start at just $1.49 a week, which is about a half or a third the price. Isn't that cheap, Chris?
Wow.
I think he's becoming a Bigfoot on the side there with that voice. But it's cheap, and it's about a half or a third of what you pay for a Starbucks coffee, which, of course, by attacking Starbucks, I'll ever advertise on the show, but I don't think we would have gotten them anyway. But really, it's pretty cheap. We offer $4.99 a month rates, annual rate, lifetime rate, 5 years, all that good stuff. For all the information you need to know to sign up, go to plus.theparacast.com. That's plus.theparacast.com. Erica Lukes joins us. We were talking about the brouhaha that evidently caused Isaac Coy to leave the UFO field in concern that maybe his real identity would be disclosed. Now, as I said, I don't know what kind of work he does as a barrister. He might be working for a private corporation, in which case, I just wonder if he has to, when he goes to court, does he wear that crazy wig? But seriously speaking, I couldn't resist, but... there was a British version of the American TV show Law and Order called Law and Order UK. And so you'd see these normal-looking lawyers, except the person who played like the equivalent of a DA here, he happened to be played by a guy who used to play Doctor Who. But forget about that. You'd see them go in court and they wear the white wig thingy. But anyway, I don't know whether Isaac has to wear the white wiggy thingy. But whatever it is, if he feels that it endangers his career in any way to be associated with the UFO mess, he's entitled to that, and he should be respected. And that's it. He's not doing anything illegal. He's not going out there attacking people. That's my beginning and end of it. I do hope he comes back, because I did see a message from him the other day. This Google group that he's involved with, that he's still more or less running it, but willing to give it to somebody else. So he's around. So if he's listening, Isaac, come on back. We'll protect you. We'll try. All right? We don't want you to have to be suffering embarrassment. That's where it goes.
I just have to say, we don't want to feel like we need to be threatened by his followers. That kind of nonsense needs to stop.
Well, yeah, I think at this point, if you're being charged or accused of something you didn't do, stop it. It's not going to solve anything.
Right. We're all on this big, huge team together. Supposedly, all the oars are in the water, pulling in the same direction. There really are no problems, only solutions that we need to agree upon. And, I don't know. I think a lot of these little dust-ups that occur from time to time, a lot of it's just misunderstandings that I think get blown out of proportion, which is unfortunate. But, I think we all need to look at the big picture and find some common ground and work it out, So rocket science, I do know a couple of rocket scientists, and, well, they probably could help, but well, Ron's a teddy bear. He could mediate anything and anybody.
So you're talking here about a mediation session, Isaac against whoever, and Ron Regal will handle it.
I don't even think it needs to get down to that. But if it needed to be, I got a rocket scientist to do a great job.
A couple of side issues. Number one here, Ted Rose got this new organization running, but he's still with NARCAP?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
explain,
executive
please.
Director. So they function as two different, they're two completely different things. So NARCAP obviously is focusing on the aviation angle of things, and then the International Association of UAP Research is trying to pull in different people, scientists, people in academia to write papers and to critically think about issues. So they're two different organizations that will actually work to support each other, and I think it will be really needed, and it's great. So I think good things are happening.
Isn't that something really that a group such as MUFON should have done all along? I mean, MUFON's been around since 1969. And I know you used to be with MUFON, but you're no longer with them, or what?
No, I resigned, oh my gosh, about 8 months ago. So we only have so much time on the planet or to put into this. And I wanted to be in an organization or to do something that was a little bit more proactive. And I think it's important. It's where we need to go. We need to take active steps to analyze data, to be transparent, to work together, and to try to address this instead of, I think sometimes as researchers or people that are investigating this, we have this tendency to look at an isolated case and to throw out the bigger picture. And I think that's something that we need to get over, because there's a bigger picture here, and there has been one for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds to me like we shouldn't be emphasizing Roswell all the time.
I could not agree with you more.
Now, just tell our listeners here, next week on the Paracast, we'll have a return appearance from Kevin D. Randall, whom I've known, I think, 20 or 30 years now. I forget. We wave at each other at UFO conventions or something, and we talk. And he's written 1 million books. not a million books, but quite a few on UFOs. He's also written science fiction, by the way. And he's got a new book called Roswell in the 21st Century. And a lot of people said, or saying, and we've got the online copy of the book that Chris and I have now. A lot of people are saying that in this book, he recants a lot of the Roswell testimony. And I'll give you a couple of examples because I've read these segments. Number one, there were 8 different people.
Drum roll, please.
Drum roll. Well, okay. Whatever. Okay, let's have a double paradiddle. Now, the first thing here is of these 8 witnesses who claimed that creatures were seen in connection with Roswell, he did not find any of them credible. So there's no evidence that anyone saw creatures in connection with Roswell. Of course, he's long attacked such things as the MJ-12 documents, the Eisenhower briefing document, that sort of thing. And he also points out that William Moore, remember him? He was one of the co-authors of the very first Roswell book with Charles Berlitz. He had written a sci-fi novel that sort of predicted MJ-12 several years before it happened. So there's a suspicion being cast there. But in general, Randall's conclusion, which he'll explain next week, but this has already been publicized, so I'll mention it. And I'll ask Erica's view on the other side after the break. His basic view is that it's not a mogul balloon. There's no evidence at this point that it's a spaceship, but he doesn't know what it is. Let's leave it there. And it's a pretty interesting thing, though, that he's gone back and gone through all the major evidence. He's got like 700 different references in this book. So he's done a lot of work on it. More to come with Erica Lukes.
The Nazis?
What'd you say?
It must have been the Nazis.
More to come with Erica Lukes and Gene and Chris. As soon as Chris recovers, you're in
the Paracast.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. You know, we have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got like, I guess, 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks? All on America's largest 4G LTE, GSM, and Sprint networks. Introducing Pix Wireless. Activate your Sprint, AT&T, or unlock GSM phones with Pix, and choose from an arsenal of monthly plans or build your own. Starting at only $2.99 per month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-205-9513 or PixWireless.com, spelled PIXWireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
And now, 3 recent financial memories. Remember the market drops of 2002, the financial crisis of 2008, the flash crash of 2010. It's not if, but when. What do you have in place to protect your profits? OnTheMarkMoney.com introduces WealthGuard, a complete portfolio monitoring system that sends out direct alerts when your accounts hit a targeted downside value, and it works with all your retirement accounts, even 401k. Learn how to get WealthGuard free. Go to OnTheMarkMoney.com.
This is a healthcare alert from the Pain Relief Hotline. If you, a family member, or a loved one suffers from knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain and have Medicare as your primary insurance, we've got great news. You don't have to suffer any longer. You can immediately qualify for a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you by calling our 24/7 Pain Relief Hotline at 866-389-0620. Delivery is free and all paperwork is handled for you. If you are on Medicare and have knee, back, shoulder, or ankle pain, don't wait. You can qualify to immediately receive a pain-relieving brace at little or no cost by calling our 24/7 Pain Hotline now at 866-389-0620. Our representatives are standing by 24/7 to take your call and rush you your pain-relieving brace at little or no cost to you. Shipping is free and all paperwork is handled for you. Just call 866-389-0620. That's 866-389-0620. Again, 866-389-0620.
Fully cooked, ready-to-eat bacon. I'm talking thick, meaty, center-cut presidential bacon. Savory and delicious. I buy some, I use some, I store some. Awesome. No refrigeration needed with a 10-year shelf life. NASA-packed technology. Bacon. Fully cooked, fully hydrated, ready to eat right from the packed bacon. Or warm and served. Life-saving, ready-to-eat bacon. 10-year shelf life bacon. Ships free at fullycookedbacon.com. Fullycookedbacon.com.
This is Jerome Clark, author of the UFO Encyclopedia and other books. You're listening to the Paracast.
So what's happened here is Chris has become one of the Nazi spies who created a test aircraft in World War II that was the Roswell object. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that it? The Nazis did it?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of interesting research that's been dug up by people like Joseph Farrell that is definitely deserves, I think, everyone's attention. Looking at technology as it existed in the mid to late 40s, a lot of stuff they had to create the apparatus to hold a lot of things secret, which is why you have the creation of the CIA and the whole national security state basically is formed around possibly levels of technology that have been classified ever since. So there's a lot of really good research. A lot of people have been digging into this whole, some people would say breakaway civilization, whatever. I find it very, very intriguing myself. I don't really waste much time on it, but I think anyone that does coalesce a lot of these sources together, you find very interesting stuff.
I like to think here that if that's the case with Roswell, it also explains a lot of early UFO cases, don't you think?
It very well could. It very well could.
So Jim Moseley, when he used to favor the Earth theory back in the 50s and early 60s, Jim Moseley was right.
Yeah. There's a lot of really interesting information that's been uncovered pertaining to, again, the creation of the national security state and how that compartmentalized certain sets of information, I think. And to what extent, I don't know. Do we have crash saucers? Are we back engineering stuff? I personally don't think we are. We may have something, but I don't think we have a clue of how to interact with it. It's probably biological. So, somebody's not in control, and that's always kind of a bad word. For governments not to be in control is not the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, I prattle onwards here.
Erica, would you prattle on this subject?
Oh boy, which subject? There's so many to choose from. I do think that, like right now for me, looking back, I've been fortunate enough to receive some of the old Blue Book cases, specifically with regard to what's taking place in Utah, what has taken place in Utah, and, all around that, the time of, or a little bit after the Roswell crash sighting. It is very curious to me when I look back at some of these cases, and a couple of them that I've been looking at. I mean, obviously, we've got the Delbert Newhouse, Tremonton case, Blue Book case that was incredibly interesting, and then a pilot, Woody Harris, who he was flying and observed an object that he tried to follow in his aircraft, and there were ground observers too. So I've been looking at all of these cases and going back over newspaper clippings from every publication here in Utah during that time. And, it's been fascinating to see how many of these sightings, when you put them in context with the current day sightings, how much is really quite similar to what took place back in the 40s and 50s. It's pretty staggering, and it's fun.
So do you see correlations of sighting waves centered around the Uinta Basin or centered more up north and west up into, the Salt Lake region?
There are obviously the Uinta Basin has always been and will always be a hot spot of activity. And from what I understand, I was on Coast to Coast a couple weeks ago with George Knapp. Things are picking back up in the Skinwalker area, Skinwalker Ranch and the Uinta Basin again. But then there's also in the Salt Lake Valley, you've got repeated sightings. I mean, decades worth of sightings in specific areas. And a lot of those areas are around Kennecott Copper Mine, and then Hill Air Force Base, and then the Great Salt Lake. And then you've got Dugway Proving Ground.
Right.
And so you've got specific places where you're seeing the same types of objects. So you've either got the amber spheres, or during the day, you've got the white metallic spheres that typically travel in groups that move in unison and have the capacity to, stop dead and take off at speeds that are not possible with human-made objects. So it's curious. And then you look at this not only here in Utah, but you look at these types of sightings that have been seen in specific places all over the world. And there is a lot of similarity, and that's what's so intriguing to me. And it's fun to speak with other people like you, Chris, who's done work in your area, some really groundbreaking work, and to see what people have to offer and what are the correlations, what are the commonalities.
Yeah. It's, oh man, I mean, there were weekends where, for instance, Sedona would have an outbreak of a particular type of described phenomenon, and invariably the same exact thing would break out, up in Colorado, in my neck of the woods. And I talked with Tom Dongo or one of a couple of other people down in Sedona area, and find out that the same exact thing was being reported virtually at the same instant. Even one weekend where both Sedona and the San Luis Valley had an Air Force jet crash and start a forest fire. Happened down here, now in Arizona, and then back up where I was at the time in the San Luis Valley. I think it was 96, I think. I have to go back and check. So much stuff happened. But we had the same exact thing happen in both places, plus the same kind of sighting activity was being reported. Go figure.
Yeah, that's so interesting, and I'm glad that you have the foresight to to communicate with other people. And that's the thing when I was involved with MUFON that was the most frustrating for me, is the fact that we were all very isolated, and instead we were working as, in a region and not contacting somebody or looking at the database and saying, wait a minute here, you saw the same stuff, the same time, this behaving the same way. And if we don't bounce ideas off of each other and realize this is a larger problem, then we'll never make breakthroughs.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. It was getting so kind of ridiculous how much I was dealing with in terms of purported activity, people reporting things, that it was I was actually starting to create predictive models. And at one point, I really felt that I had kind of zeroed in on for some reason, a moon phase correlation. And sure enough, I didn't really tell anybody about it, but I watched it, I watched it unfold. And as soon as I said something to somebody, then the thing did a 180 and absolutely did the exact opposite.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Maybe the ET doesn't like you, Chris. That's what it is. ET doesn't like you, Chris. We have to run in a couple of seconds here. And I just want to mention, we have just learned here from Leslie Kane about an article she wrote for Huffington Post about a UFO video taken by the Navy in Chile. It's a brand new case, although I guess it occurred a couple of years ago. It's supposed to be very significant. I'll go into that, and we'll go back to the research that Chris and Erica are talking about. With Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors, classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Hunters, anglers, campers, and survivalists. Get back to nature. Expand your horizons with the highest quality, most versatile, unique slingshots and sling bows on the market at slingbow.com. Sling bow products are compact and models start from just $17.98. They're perfect for your bug out bag or storing in your vehicle. Give yourself and your loved ones the excitement and tradition of sling bow. A new frontier in archery and truly modern twist on this primitive survival tool. Feel the thrill only at slingbow.com.
Cancer categorizes over 100 diseases. Though we do not diagnose, treat, or cure cancer, GCN team is offering the Clemson University study where there was up to a 95% reduction in cancerous cells when exposed to a plant-derived mineral supplement. If you or a loved one are searching for answers to this horrifying disease, come to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. We'll email you a copy for free. That's 877-878-4203.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
So, just as I was mentioning here, it's the article up at Huffington Post, written by Leslie Kane. And it's fascinating here because she says the video is amazing. And she wrote, maybe it would be of interest to your forum. Of course it is. But it's also possible here that we might get a guest from Chile to tell us more about this case.
Yeah, that'd be good.
I'm going to put it up in the forums in the next couple of days, and we'll work on something probably for later this month. We have to coordinate work schedules and everything.
Right.
But this will be interesting.
So, Gene,
yeah.
I just want to ask you, where specifically in Chile did this take place?
I just got the link from Leslie, and I'm looking right now. It was flying north along the coast west of Santiago on November 11th, 2014.
You know, it's interesting that you bring that up. We, here in Utah, we have the Great Salt Lake, and some of the mineral and rare earth content is very similar to Atacama region in Chile. And my husband is a chemical engineer, and his father was, he was one of the world's foremost sought after lithium engineers. And he would go to Chile and into these remote parts in the Atacama desert where they were processing lithium. And it was interesting to hear little bits and pieces of stories from people that were working out there about their UFO sightings.
Yeah, I guess if you're going to mine anything, lithium would be a pleasant sort of substance to mine. Just make sure you catch most of it with the respirator.
Yeah, right. But I always think that's so interesting to me. I've been trying to figure out why these objects are appearing in specific areas. And I really feel, Chris, and I think you do too, that they're utilizing something for energy. They're utilizing our resources.
Right.
And
now, understand here, lithium, not dilithium.
Lithium.
Well, or it could be quadrilithium. There's a lithium hot springs in the San Luis Valley where back in 1991, we had a number of landings out right at the place where the 140-degree water comes out of the earth. There were landings of a craft out there, which is one of the first cases that I heard about that I actually kind of went and checked out. So I always found that interesting, that it's a lithium hot spring.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
Huh.
We'd always have to, flip to see who would drive, because nobody liked to drive after we soak in there. Because the drive home, you really had to, have your wits about you, because it was a very overly relaxing, shall we say. After I could only do about a half hour, really, myself. Other people could, be in there all day and then kind of walk around in La La Land for a while.
This is before you suffered your illness at the reservation?
This is, 20 years ago, back in Colorado.
Would it have a curative effect?
Yeah, very much so.
Well, you've got your assignment next time you get back there.
Yeah,
Let's dunk Chris.
It's up at about 8,000 something feet. It's way up there.
Oh, it's out of my league. I'm not going way up anywhere.
Yeah, it's 50% higher than Denver.
I haven't even been to Denver, folks.
You haven't?
No.
Wow. That airport, just going to the airport in and of itself is a trip. So.
I just shudder to think about DIA.
It's an interesting one, for sure.
Yeah.
But Chris, I just, sorry to just kind of jump in here, but for me, talking about these correlations in different areas is so intriguing. And when you were researching all of this, I mean, you were seeing the nocturnal lights, the lower level orbs, spheres of lights. You were getting lots of reports on those. And did you feel that they were in specific places? Were there fault lines? Were there mines, abandoned mines? What was the...
Yeah, all the above. And the thing that would always be the sort of a presage event would be these things I call the cheap fireworks, like giant bottle rockets, completely silent. And you'd see them. I had them as close as maybe 200 feet away. And they just come out of nowhere. They're just all of a sudden, it's like this arc of light. I've seen them at a lower elevation than me, light up the tops of trees below me. I was up about 500 feet above the valley floor, and the phenomenon flashed over the trees, which were probably 200 feet below me. I've seen them with a uniform overcast sky, and they were obviously below the clouds. And then you'd see these things like on one or two nights, and then we'd all of a sudden have a flurry of other types of reports, more structured craft type things, or lights that seem to be operating coherently or with, to intelligent movement. And then at the end of a kind of a mini flap, we'd have these cheap fireworks, and then everything would slow down and stop.
And that's interesting to me, because I've actually seen the bottle rocket type things on 3 different occasions, and I've reached out to different researchers to figure out their thoughts on this, and a lot of researchers aren't even familiar with that.
Right, yeah. That's the most common thing that I saw. I saw that several dozen times, 30, 40 times probably. I saw that exact phenomenon. Like I said, within 100 feet of me. One guy called up and he said, I don't know exactly what I'm reporting, but the only way I could put it is I think I just saw Tinkerbell crash.
Oh, I like that.
He reported Tinkerbell crashing right in front of him.
So was there anything else that happened? I noticed when I had one sighting in particular that was fairly close to me, that it became incredibly cold. I mean, it went from a moderate temperature to freezing, and that was quite interesting.
Just before you continue, I want to ask you a quick question about that, Erica. Okay, was it the perceived temperature or the actual temperature as maybe measured?
That's a great question, the perceived temperature.
Okay, so maybe it was something emotional as opposed to a physical effect?
It very well could have been, but to me, I mean, there are very few instances in my life where I felt that, to me, it was just this drastic drop in temperature. It was very odd. So I don't know if that was, to me, that's not necessarily an emotional response that I've ever had when viewing strange things. But I think it was something around me. So.
Were you outdoors?
Yes.
Okay.
And the temperature again was what?
The temperature was probably in the 70s. And it got cold enough that I was chilled, and it was drastic. But again, it was just my own perception.
We have some drastic messages for you. We have to break for. How's that for a segue? Erica Lukes, Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, I want to tell you about my favorite graphics app. It's the award-winning Graphic Converter. Graphic Converter is the universal genius for photo editing on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for this Swiss Army knife photo editing app. It gives you all you expect from a top-flight image editing app with tons of features, and most important, it's easy to use. It's also far less expensive than that other app that you can only get by subscription. You know the one I'm talking about. What's more, you can get 20% off with your order right now. So write this down to learn about Graphic Converter. Go to www.lemkesoft.de/Gene. Let me spell that. www.lemkesoft.de/Gene.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
In these uncertain times, it makes sense to have a sustainable backup method to cook food and boil water. If your current plan includes using a fuel-burning stove or cooking over an open fire, then there's a much better way. The Minuteman Rocket Stove is a biomass-burning cooking stove that only requires small quantities of sticks and twigs for fuel. The Minuteman Stove is easy to use, smokeless, portable, powerful, and sustainable. For the finest in survival cooking stoves and fire starters made right here in the USA, go to MinutemanStove.com. That's MinutemanStove.com.
In a crisis, your number one need is food, but not just any food. Experts say everyone needs to have non-perishable, good for 25 years survival food on hand in case of an emergency. Well, right now, in what is truly an unprecedented move, 72-hour survival food kits are being given away to listeners while supplies last. Survival food is more important today than ever before, explains Frank Bates, a spokesman for the company. Natural disasters, terrorist attacks, and other threats can make obtaining sufficient food impossible in an emergency. This 72-hour survival kit has 16 servings of delicious food rated for 25 years of storage. It sells to the general public for $27 plus shipping, and it's been rated 4.5 out of 5 stars by customers who paid full price. But listeners who act quickly can get it free, just cover $9.95 shipping. Go to freefood2.com right now. Supplies are limited, and the program may end at any time. Go to freefood2.com now. That's freefood2.com.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our responsibility. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Okay, Erica Lukes becoming one of our top The Paracast Stinger Makers. It's a new category where you put it on a plaque or something with Gene and Chris. Let's continue. So you felt a chill.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience because I was, I most nights I'll go out on my deck and I'll look across the valley and I can see aircraft coming in and leaving because the flight corridor runs right down the middle of the valley. And I could see, in this specific instance, I could see a light on the opposite side of the valley on the mountain. And it was interesting to me because I try to every night, like, okay, this is where the lights are. This is just put things in to perspective and draw out diagrams. And this kind of caught my eye. And it was very interesting to me because I just had this thought in my head, okay, that's great. If that's really anything anomalous, then I want to see something else above this, and within 30 seconds, this bottle rocket just came into my vision, and it was fairly close, about 30 feet away, and then just disappeared, and it was no sound. And of course, my first thought is, okay, who's lighting off fireworks? I mean, it was such a strange thing to see that close up, but then just to have, to my perception, the temperature dropping so drastically, it was a very bizarre circumstance.
Was that in the Uintas? Where exactly did that occur?
I'm in the Salt Lake Valley, so I am on the east side.
Okay, so okay. Yeah, there are a lot of large faulting areas all around there.
Yes.
And it's also the remnants, the last vestiges of the Great Inland Sea that used to cover the whole state of Utah, and is now, of course, above water on the Colorado Plateau. But there are some very interesting geophysical properties all throughout, especially the central and southern parts of the state. And I'm sure fielding reports with MUFON for as long as you did. I'm sure you zeroed in on a few areas yourself. You mentioned being on with George Knapp and talking about apparent new ownership, I guess, up at the formerly known as the Sherman Ranch or the Skinwalker Ranch.
Yes.
So we have new owners. Have you been able to determine who these people are? Some media company or something?
I have not been able to determine that. Admantium is the name of the company, and other than that, nobody knows anything about them. And it sounds to me like the new owner has no desire to disclose that information. So,
okay.
It'll be curious to see how things play out. And I think it's also interesting that George was mentioning that the activity is increasing again. And,
wow.
So who knows what's happening, but I think I'm about ready for a little road trip again. Get up there and see what's going on.
Yeah, you're not that far away.
No, I'm a couple hours away.
Right,
and
right.
I had a message from a friend of mine up there, and he said that this was about 5 nights ago that he was seeing something strange that he videotaped, and I'll have to get a hold of the videotape, some anomalous lights. So we'll see what's going on.
Yeah. Having tramped around that area on a number of occasions, all I can do is wish you good hunting.
Well, thank you. And I'm going to stop by and get a jug of holy water and some sage and I don't know.
You go. Yeah.
That place is just it's so interesting because of the negativity, I think, that you hear about in the area.
Yeah.
And you've got the cattle mutilations and the strange creatures, and it really is one of those places that's just incredibly unusual.
Well, having been pulled in before the media got a hold of it and saw it in its more pristine sort of way, I think, for lack of a better descriptive term, it's definitely a lot of interesting stuff has gone on there and probably always has gone on there. And it's not only there at that particular ranch site, it's all throughout that area. And I think there's areas to the south from there that are probably way more active than, that area around the Fort Duchesne location. Again, it's almost like a red herring. It's like, keep everybody's attention focused there when the real stuff is going on nearby, but, out of sight, out of mind. So,
Yeah, it's a trip. And I love just collecting different stories from people. And I was fortunate enough to have somebody give me some case reports that he had investigated back with Junior Hicks.
Right.
And so that it's very cool to see all of the great work that people like Junior did. Is so important.
Right.
And I hope at some point I will be able to just sit down and talk with him or see his work. And I think that if there was any way to get a hold of some of his archives, that would be incredibly important to digitize and to get out there for other researchers to see.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the work of his mentor, Frank Salisbury, who we just lost a couple of years ago. One of the better books about a particular region and its regional sighting events. The great Utah UFO display.
Yeah, that's a great book.
Is a classic book. And it is centered around the Uinta Basin, basically.
It is, yeah. And he worked with Junior. It's a book about all that stuff going on back in the 60s and 70s into the 80s. And Junior was right. He and Frank pretty much documented all that activity with some outside help. They did, and I was fortunate enough to speak to Frank a couple times, and the last time I spoke to him, he was so happy. He was newly married and just in love, and I wanted to really pin him down and go up and videotape him and his thoughts, and he was just having too good of a time. So,
yeah,
which it's sad. I mean, he was such a brave person to have to risk his career to come out.
We were very fortunate to have him on the show.
Oh, wow.
Yes, we did. I think one of his last appearances, probably.
Yeah.
We have Erica Lukes, we have Chris O'Brien, we have Gene Steinberg, and a ton of questions and comments from listeners in our forums. Let us continue. You're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
Looking for that edge during those intimate moments? We see many ads for enhancement, but the side effects include death. At GCN Team, we should change the Healthy Body Brain and Heart Pack to the Healthy Libido Pack. The brain and heart are not the only organs that require a healthy vascular system. For proper blood flow at the right moment, go to GCNteam.com or call 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203. That's 877-878-4203.
This is Dan Pilla. Do you owe the IRS money you can't pay? Are tax debts crippling you? I've defended people from the IRS for over 30 years. I've helped thousands, and I can help you too. I wrote the book on IRS settlement, and I'm telling you, there's no such thing as a hopeless case. Call 800-34-NO-TAX to finally get free of IRS debt. With the IRS's new programs, there's never been a better time to solve your problem. Call 800-34-NO-TAX. That's 800-34-NO-TAX, or my website, danpilla.com.
All right, guys, we're ready for our four-season sunroom, and Daddy's gonna get a rec room with refreshments.
Oh, no. We'll be sleeping under the stars.
Mom, what about the one with, the fun?
Nice try, little bro. It's a gym. My gym.
Hey, Grandma's getting her Four Seasons garden room. Weather tight and still like being outdoors.
Maybe a living room. Oh, no, wait. A family hub.
Yeah! No matter what the budget, the season, or the climate, Four Seasons Sunrooms let you and your family enjoy the outdoors inside. Call now to hear more about these great offers from the premier manufacturer of sunrooms since 1975.
4 reasons for 4 seasons now.
To find out more, call toll-free 800-848-6333. That's 800-848-6333.
My computer is so slow, it's making me crazy.
I used to have that problem.
Did you quit using a computer or did you buy a new one?
No, I called Geeks On Site. They made an appointment to visit my home and showed up the same day.
You mean they didn't ask you to bring your computer to a shop? That's what happened when I called a support company.
Geeks On Site can go to your home or business or even repair your computer online. They have 24/7 emergency service.
If you're having problems with your PC or Mac, call Geeks On Site, 1-800-591-1682. Our friendly certified computer repair experts are available 24/7. Call now for a free diagnosis, 1-800-591-1682. Data recovery, virus removal, and maintenance for all laptops, desktops, printers, and networks. That's Geeks On Site for friendly certified computer repair experts, available 24/7 over the phone or in your home or business. Just call 1-800-591-1682. That's 1-800-591-1682, 1-800-591-1682.
What would your life be like if you woke up each morning with new vitality, feeling better than you have in years, and you noticed a difference in your sleeping patterns, blood sugar levels, and had a sense of well-being overall? There's something that is changing thousands of people's lives, and you could be one of them. It's called Heart and Body Extract. Sharon Harris, co-creator of Heart and Body Extract, talks about the positive effects of Heart and Body Extract.
What happens with the formula Heart and Body Extract is it's giving the body the necessary vitamins, minerals, amino acids, enzymes, and phytonutrients so the body will heal itself. And yes, the body does have the ability to balance blood pressure, balance cholesterol, clean and unclog the arteries. It can also work on balancing the circulation for diabetics. So the body is an amazing thing. It simply needs some help so it has the tools to heal itself.
Heart and Body Extract gets results. To order your 2-month supply, call now, toll free at 866-295-5305. Order online at hbextract.com.
Hey, this is Marie D. Jones, the author of This Book is from the Future, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
We continue with Erica Lukes and Gene and Chris. You know, Chris, we can focus on this for the rest of the show, but there are a bunch of questions from listeners. And some of it also focuses on women in ufology. And before we get to that, I wanted to give you some demographics, folks, about our show, about the Paracast. That might interest you, okay? Well, first of all, our maximum audience is from the ages of 25 through 64, which advertisers is numero uno territory, okay?
Okay.
Only 15% of our audience has a high school degree or less, which means most attended college.
Wow.
And a decent portion have a 4-year degree and a master's degree. Okay? A lot of people who listen to the show have incomes of over $50,000, and the largest portion is $100,000 to $149,000.
Wow.
Okay, so we have people here who make a lot of money. 60% of our audience is married, and the rest is the various divisions of not being married or being married no longer. But the largest portion of our audience is male. Don't have enough female audience. But isn't that what we see a lot too, Erica? Everywhere. So most of the prominent UFO researchers we know about are men.
Mm-hmm.
The executives in major industries, most are men. The executives in UFO organizations are mostly men. But there are more women in this country than men. What's going on here, Erica Lukes?
Oh, Lord have mercy. That is just such a loaded question with lots of implications. But I think that, you know, I was raised by a single mother, and she was one of the first executives in Utah, and she worked her butt off and was paid, you know, a fraction of what the men were paid in this incredibly patriarchal society. And I know that what you see in ufology, I mean, there's no, except we don't get paid, but just it's a good old boys club. And that is absolutely true. And for me being a woman and coming into this, it was shocking to see how much sexism there was, and comments that, you the only reason you're getting ahead is because you're relatively attractive, or you're, sleeping your way to the top, or you're doing this or you're doing that. And it was like, wait a minute. I don't think we talk about men like that. And what it's just ridiculous. And so for me, those things were difficult to deal with. And then you have people that have lower level political games in mind. And then it was just really, it's been an interesting and shocking and a nasty experience. But I think that if and I know I'm not alone in having these kind of experiences in ufology, I think that we need to address this and talk about it openly, and other women need to be supportive of each other. For me, I want to see younger people get involved in this field. I want to see more women. And for whatever reason, we're failing to engage a younger demographic. We have to figure out why. What is that we're not getting across? Why isn't there a good flow of communication that's exciting people? Well, we know when it comes to women, we don't see a lot of female faces. We don't have a lot of support. I think that organizations should absolutely support and protect the females in the organization. And I think unfortunately that isn't the case. So there.
Have you ever been treated in a way that makes you feel less of a person, or not being given the proper degree of respect?
Absolutely. I mean, and that's one of the reasons, the main reason that I resigned as state director of MUFON.
Would you please explain?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first began doing this, I mean, you know, because we had the show, and even though I just resigned, I was much more gung-ho and pro-MUFON and yada, yada. But I was taking over the state directorship, building up a chapter, getting people involved and doing all of my duties. And then I also, as part of that, I was doing radio shows, and there was another person in MUFON that told me about this particular individual, and he was doing radio shows to support MUFON on this show. And so I would go on, and through a series of events, I realized that this person was definitely not playing with a full deck, was pretty abusive to certain people, and he began to harass me and do some really horrible things. And that MUFON headquarters knew about that, and they didn't really necessarily, and not that I had asked them to, but take a stand on this or just say, we're not going here. But unfortunately, some of what this person was saying, which was typical for him to say about other people he'd worked with, those things got out, and they were used by a couple really naughty human beings to try to discredit me. And that was really just mind-blowing. It was really painful. I think there was about a year there where there wouldn't be a night that I wouldn't just go to bed in tears, and my family was affected because it was so hard. But then to know that MUFON chose not to stand up for me, and they also let that affect the people on my team, my assistant state director and other people in Utah MUFON. And that was really, it was wrong. It was really wrong.
Can you be specific in any way about this abusive behavior so our listeners will understand?
The abusive behavior was directed at me by a couple people who were in MUFON. And other than that, I don't want to necessarily, I'm so freaking, it was such a painful thing. They know who they are and people working around them know who they are. And MUFON headquarters, like I said, they chose not to deal with the situation or to protect a volunteer who cared very deeply about doing the right thing and building the organization. So, and that's too bad, because that sets a bad precedent for other people coming into this, especially women.
What do you think can be done to make the UFO feel less of an old boys network? To be blunt about it.
Oh, Lord. I think what we really need...
Well, first, at least talk about it and agree on, I think, some bedrock issues. I think defining the problem and more heads are better than one. That's why, Erica, when we initially spoke, I thought the idea of a woman's roundtable.
That's brilliant.
Would be a good way to at least create a place where there is that potential for as open a dialogue as the participants are comfortable with. And I would love to have that on the Paracast, have yourself and any we have any number of women who could be on a panel like that.
Kathleen Martin, I'm sure, would love to.
Kathleen, absolutely. Leslie, we mentioned Leslie Keene earlier. There have been lots of women in the field, but they tend to keep their heads down. And a lot of them are very quiet in their work. The Barbara Lamb comes to mind.
Chris, we need to break now, and then we'll go into more.
Okay, go ahead.
With Erica Lukes and Gene and Chris, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. We have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast Jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
This is Ben Gordon, and if your teeth are stained from coffee, tea, or smoking, Power Swabs is the answer. In 5 minutes, you'll see 2 shades whiter teeth, and in 7 days, 6 shades. There's no messy strips or trays that you have to leave in your mouth for an hour. Just swab your teeth for 5 minutes, and you're done. To try Power Swabs, call 1-800-290-8480. Your bright white smile will have your friends talking about how great you look. Try it risk-free. 1-800-290-8480. That's 1-800-290-8480.
Did you know your car can be hacked just like your computer or phone? Hackers can hijack the signal of your own key fob to burglarize your vehicle in seconds. The Black Hole Faraday key fob bag is a signal impenetrable shield that stops these hacks in their tracks. Protect one of your most valuable assets. Go to hackproofbag.com. That's hackproofbag.com and use promo code RADIO to get 20% off. Or call 805-222-4584. 805-222-4584.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pulaski of the Pulaski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states.
Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
Honey? What is that in your CPAP mask?
Oh, that's just my mold collection.
Oh, gross. And what is that?
What, that bacteria colony right there? Yeah, cool, huh?
Okay, CPAP users, admit it.
You're not always as careful about cleaning your system as you should be. Unfortunately, a dirty mask and hose can make you sick, respiratory infections, allergy attacks, and more. But now there's an easy way to protect yourself. SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. It kills 99.9% of CPAP germs in minutes. For a limited time, you can try it risk-free for 30 days. Just call 1-800-944-1065. So Clean is hands-free. Just pop in your mask, close the lid, and presto, your CPAP comes out clean and fresh in minutes. Don't let germs wreak havoc on your health. Call in the next 10 minutes for your risk-free trial. 1-800-944-1065. That's 1-800-944-1065.
We're all looking for safe, effective, and all-natural remedies for ourselves and our family. The solution is Simplex. Simplex oils provide natural anti-inflammatory and pain relief, antioxidant and nerve protection, and is an amazing topical acne removal and skincare supplement. Natural healing at a very affordable price. Find out more about our non-psychoactive CBD oil products. Go to simplexspecials.com. That's simplexspecials.com.
Hi, this is Bryce Abel. I'm the producer of Dark Skies, the co-author of AD After Disclosure, and you are listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
So let's go back to the question that I posed to Erica Lukes in our previous segment here. What can be done to attract more women to the UFO field? Certainly, the men haven't been able to really get anything done, seriously. I mean, the UFO field, how much has been accomplished? I write about this all the time.
Not a lot.
Yeah, well, I look at MUFON. MUFON's been around since 1969, and they hold the seminars, and they have the monthly newsletters, and I read it and everything to find new cases. But I don't see they've made any progress, not a bit.
No.
All right, so how do we get women involved? How do we basically upset everything, or should we throw it all out and start over?
Oh, I think there are pros and cons to both of that. I think that there are some really good, hardworking people that have a lot of important things to share. And like, Chris was saying, they kind of keep their nose down, their heads down. And these are men and women because of the abuse that is rampant in the field. I can think of one researcher in particular who's a male who got out of this, who had some of the most important things to contribute to this subject of anybody I've ever met. It's directed at women, but it's abuse that runs rampant. And I think that we have to, as people wanting to make a change quickly, we have to be willing to all adhere to some ethical and professional standards. And that has been, I don't know if we've ever seen that in this field, because as one researcher says, it's the wild, wild west. Well, it doesn't have to be if people are willing to stand up and talk about it and to not accept abusive behavior or unethical treatment of other people. It can be done. I absolutely, and it has to be, because this subject is too important to let it get, messed up by a few egomaniacs that really should go find another playground.
How's that? I'll tell you, I often refer to the UFO field as toxic, but frankly, even Art Bell once said that. And Art Bell has had a pretty checkered history in recent years, but I've said it's toxic. And we talked before about the debate over Isaac Coy and everything and all these interactions. Of course, that's unfortunately part of our society now, our online society, where people go on Facebook or on Twitter and they scream and yell at one another, which is an outgrowth of the old Usenet news groups back in the 80s and 90s, where people went online and they'd scream and yell at one another. I remember when I tried to have a civil conversation with somebody in Usenet, they said, "Why are you not attacking me?" And I said, "I don't do that." And he said, "This is a flame war. You flame me, I flame you." And I said, "No, I don't. Have a nice life." And that's where it ended.
Yeah. Well, Greer's meeting planner, one of our posters at forum.theparacast.com, is wondering about all this. And if you saw his avatar, Greer dressed up as the Joker with the green hair, and it's talk about patronizing. The question is it patronizing that we are talking about women in ufology? Surely we should be using your time to ask you about the phenomenon and trying to learn something about the cases. By using your time to talk about gender balance in the field, aren't we just reinforcing the stupid notion that it actually matters what gender you are? Couldn't we give her the same grace that we give other guests to use her time to educate us on paranormal stuff and impart her knowledge?
And those are nice. Those are nice comments. I mean, I appreciate
exactly.
that.
It sucks that we even have to talk about it in the first place. In other words,
no, it does. But and I've kind of had this feeling. I mean, I've gone back and forth. Oh my God, do I address this? Do I let it go? How do I handle this? And I think, unfortunately, what we've seen are a majority of people that don't address things, and as a result, we get more and more dysfunction.
Well, I think it's the implication that what you're talking about has to do with some sort of perception of gender imbalance. And I think that's totally missing the point. I don't think what you're talking about has anything to do with some sort of, gender imbalance as being the issue. The issue is women are being treated unfairly, and they're being marginalized because there is an imbalance. All you're doing is pointing that out. You're not saying that it's good or bad. Just saying, look, there is an imbalance, and we need to talk about it. I'm looking at our questions here, and there's some very good ones here that people, kind of started thinking a little bit. And I don't think we're going to be able to get to all of them, but there was one person on here that was wondering, are women better suited for certain things in the field, in ufology? And I always say, you bet. I had the very distinct pleasure of working with Rosemary Ellen Guiley in the field. We covered a number of cases in my old stomping grounds, the San Luis Valley. I took her around and she helped out on a number of cases, and I was absolutely blown away and humbled by this woman. Amazing, just absolutely natural. Her encyclopedic knowledge. I was I was glad I was driving and holding the. I was the roadie, It was great. And I think I've been around, other take charge women in the field too. Linda Howe, I mean, for years was very much that way, to a fault. So I do think that there's, especially in the investigative end of all this, I do think that there's women can accomplish certain things, I think, more effortlessly,
right,
with less effort, shall we say.
And I think it's true. I mean, we all have different skill sets, men, women, individuals. And so I think one of the big problems that I've seen kind of looking at this whole field objectively is the fact that a lot of people that come into this field have a certain skill set. And that skill set is getting down and doing research and looking at minute details and doing things like that, but they don't have a skill set of necessarily maybe interacting with other individuals or making witnesses feel comfortable
People's
or
skills,
safe. Or dealing with the media and getting the information from point A to point B in an effective manner. And so I think what we need to do is really find people that have specific skill sets and then work together so we're each contributing our best qualities to get this out there. And I think that's, I'm every day I'm finding a new person that I can work with that I can compliment, and we can help each other. And it's really a cool thing to do.
Well, and in a perfect world, I mean, that's the way it really is. We just haven't quite rediscovered all the connecting points. We're all in this together. It should be one big team effort. It should be a bunch of musketeers, pulling together, one for all for one. I mean, it really should be. I've always felt, out of all the things in life that I can be utopian about, this would be the one.
Exactly.
I'll
and you
indulge
are
myself.
and I will say that I was so impressed, and you were so kind to send me your data. And that's exactly how we should all be. We should be willing to pick up the phone and talk to people and just share thoughts and ideas. And when people are not willing to do that, when they're not transparent with their information, when they're not, when they're kind of ego driven, I mean, that stands out. And I think now is an important time to focus. I mean, we can kind of separate the wheat from the chaff. And I think you two both do a great job at doing that. And that's
we
important.
Also need to separate these announcements.
Okay.
Isn't that a horrible segue? With Gene, Chris, and Erica, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
Attack of the Rockoids has been well received by critics and readers alike. It's a thrill-a-minute story you'll never forget. A former U.S. military intelligence officer is haunted by intense dreams about a beautiful woman pleading for his help after a terrible battle in outer space. But the dreams turn out to be true and thrust him into a telepathic love affair with a woman whose faraway planet is intent on destroying the Earth. And now the gripping tale continues in The Coming of the Protectors. It's the second book of the Rockoids trilogy, a galaxy-spanning adventure that pits our hapless heroes against powerful, fanatical enemies that threaten the lives of freedom-loving beings everywhere. Attack of the Rockoids and The Coming of the Protectors. Classic science fiction at its best, available now. For more details, visit rockoids.com. That's ROCKOIDS.com.
Lifetime Grazed 100% grass-fed beef has the health benefits you seek. When compared to conventional beef, it offers good fats while virtually eliminating the bad. That's the result of cattle who never eat grain, ever. Rich in antioxidants, including vitamin E, C, beta-carotene, and CLA. No artificial hormones, antibiotics, or other drugs. For all our fresh, non-cooked products with only 100% grass-fed beef, go to MidasResources.com. Use voucher code GCN to get 30% off your order. MidasResources.com, or find us on Facebook.
Would it be okay if you had 2 paychecks instead of 1? I'm Pharmacist Keith. Dr. Wallach, the Dead Doctors Don't Lie guy, and myself want to show you how to get an extra paycheck every month, creating an extra income that will last for years to come by joining Dr. Wallach's crusade, spreading his message of better health. To learn more, visit radio.recordedvideo.com. That's radio.recordedvideo.com, radio.recordedvideo.com, or call 866-257-3105 for a recorded message.
Welcome back to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio. And now, here's Gene Steinberg.
I was thinking here, when you talk about making your databases and your evidence freely available, and are you listening, MUFON and National UFO Reporting Center? You open source it. You let people work on the database file, improve upon it, get more categories in there, make it work better for everyone. I guess you'd still want to have a central point where the final version is posted. so it's consistent, but have a way to feed the input. Anyone who's done open source software can probably set up this infrastructure, in a day or so. But that sounds interesting, doesn't it, Erica?
It does, and I would love, I just want to be a part of doing any of this, because we have to get all of the data in one place. I know that Barry Greenwood and Jan Aldrich and that team, they've been archiving really important documents for decades, and they're trying to get all of those archives in a location so researchers can have access to that. And that's the type of stuff that is really profoundly important and will make a difference, because we can go back and put the pieces of the puzzle together and start making connections and seeing things in a broader perspective.
No, but I'll tell you, the younger generation's coming up now with just so much data available. I'm sure some creative analyst is going to come along and start pulling gems out of the data. Obviously, there's always a garbage in, garbage out scenario, but I think you can comb through databases looking for particular key elements and cut to the chase, I think, in a variety of ways that may be diagnostic. I think the work of Ray Stanford, he's starting to come up with things to look for within real optical, legitimate optical data and evidence. And once you start predicting results, then you're challenging the scientific community to refute that repeatability that you're demonstrating. So, people like Ray, I think, are on the right track. They're actually looking now at principles that they're having success at showing how they're operative in real AAO, anomalous aerial object, as Ray prefers, or UAP or UFO type optical data and information. So I think it's great, being a millennial or, It
is. And I think the cool
right
thing,
now, they're so blessed, God, all I had was Tinker Toys, an erector set, and Lincoln Logs or something.
and I think there are pros and cons to having either of those, technology or not. We kind of lose a lot of our intuitive abilities the more technology we get thrown our way. Right. We kind of we lose those interpersonal skills. But I think that with the advancements in technology, the cool thing that we've seen is the fact that you can get night vision, infrared technology for a fraction of the cost. And so this is allowing people from all over the world to go out and on a fairly regular basis videotape anomalous things. And so I've been, working with a few other people to find a network of people that do that. And then what our goal is to try to develop protocols so each of the people all over the world can have specific things that we're doing when we're videotaping this. And then
if you know somebody that has an extra third gen monocular, C-mount monocular, tell them Sedona could use one.
That would be so cool. We could hear too, but right. I think that this is where we need to go. We need to start making connections with people who are really excited, who have the equipment, who want to go out there and learn not only about our natural world and space, but learn about all of these cool things. And I just have to say that I love the work that Erling Strand and his team do over in Hessdalen. And that's really important, that not only the data they've collected over 30 years, but the fact that they're taking college students out there for science camp to teach them how to use equipment.
Oh, they've been doing that for decades too.
Yeah, and that's how we need to address this. We need to get people excited, and they can use technology to do this.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's why the San Luis Valley Camera Project is so important. And, unfortunately, we're now falling behind the curve of technology. All our tech is now obsolete. So why go through all the effort and energy to put up stuff that's now, 5 generations old? So I don't know. It's always something. It's 3 steps forward, 2.5 steps back. But time marches on. It's cold up there now, so
that's true.
Yep, it's cold up there. But it'd be great to team up with you and go out on some cases. Next time I'm up in your area, maybe we can go visit the basin. A couple of places
awesome
up there. I'd like to check out, because I've always thought that the ranch is a bit of a red herring. I think there's a lot more interesting stuff going on further south.
Let's do it. I just, I've got a truck and we can just head to the hills and get the camping gear and all the equipment. I've been, just getting more and more equipment as the days go on. And I think it'll be very interesting. And I think too, out in the Dugway vicinity around there, there's also some
right.
interesting stuff that we see. I don't know how close we'd want to get, because I don't necessarily.
What I was thinking is the area around Green River, that area north, along the Green River, north of 70. And then also the area just south of Green River, kind of on Highway 24, around the San Rafael Swell. That's where I hunt for agatized bone, down in that area.
That's a beautiful area.
Yeah. So what I'd probably do is drive up. And you ever been to Sago Canyon there? Those wonderful petroglyphs, those guardians?
Yep. That's so cool. Let's make a plan. We need to do that.
Yeah.
Maybe later in the summer we can go cause some trouble.
Yeah.
Causing trouble, that's my middle name.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a middle name, so of course it has to be causing trouble.
Exactly.
That whole stretch of the green going up north of 70 there. There's some really major activity always going on up in there.
And there has been for a long time.
Yeah.
It would be interesting. I'll have to do some more research and get some more cases, because that's typically an area that I've been so focused on the Salt Lake Valley, and then kind of more towards in Duchesne County and things like that. But
right, it's a hole. It's kind of a hole in the data.
Well, we'll get there.
Yeah,
we have a place to get to right now, and lots more questions from our listeners of our guest Erica Lukes. And by the way, next week we'll be featuring Kevin Randall with his new Roswell book, where has he recanted his theories about Roswell? We'll find out. With Gene, with Chris, Erica, you're in
the Paracast.
Neighbors, I want to tell you about my favorite graphics app. It's the award-winning Graphic Converter. You know, Graphic Converter is the universal genius for photo editing on your Mac. Join over 1.5 million loyal users for this Swiss Army knife photo editing app. It gives you all you expect from a top-flight image editing app with tons of features, and most important, it's easy to use. It's also far less expensive than that other app that you can only get by subscription. You know, the one I'm talking about. What's more, you can get 20% off with your order right now. So write this down to learn about Graphic Converter. Go to www.lemkesoft.de/Gene Let me spell that. www.lemkesoft.de/gene.
Hi, Peter Vaccaro for ParanormalDate.com. Are you looking for love in all the wrong places? Now you have a chance to change that by signing up for free at ParanormalDate.com. This incredible dating site puts people of like minds together. People who are interested in the strange, the unusual, mysteries, ghosts, UFOs, and the afterlife, and so much more. ParanormalDate.com was developed for you, people seeking a viable alternative to the other dating services. You can join for free by going to ParanormalDate.com, and if you decide you like it and want to connect with people, use the code GEORGE for a substantial discount. Mark Rawlings, president of ParanormalDate.com, says so many people hunger to share their experiences about the paranormal, the unexplainable, or the afterlife, and so much more, and this is the source for them to meet and share that common interest. So sign up for free at ParanormalDate.com, ParanormalDate.com, and use the code GEORGE if you decide to connect with someone you like.
There is an affordable alternative to the high cost of healthcare that offers freedom from insurance while providing compliance with the Obamacare individual mandate. Imagine having access to quality, affordable healthcare that allows you the freedom to choose your doctor and hospital. Members can share up to 100% of necessary medical expenses, including some alternative treatments. Find out how you and your family can contain healthcare costs without giving up your freedom. Go to libertyoncall.org. That's libertyoncall.org.
My name is Robin. I'm 47 years of age. I absolutely love One World Whey. It was about 5 years ago when a trainer told me it was the end-all of protein powders. One day when I ran out, I decided to try other brands. I spent 8 months and could not find a replacement. I went through tons of brands, types, and flavors, and almost all of them tasted unnatural and not pleasant. When it all boiled down, I came right back to One World Whey. I buy the cost-effective 5-pound container, and my family craves their One World Whey too. I look forward to and enjoy having my One World Whey and feel great after I drink it. Thank you, Synergistic Nutrition, for perfecting a protein powder in the product One World Whey. From taste to how it makes me and my family feel, you get an A++.
Call 888-988-3325 or visit oneworldwhey.com. That's oneworld.com.
Water is the single most important thing your body needs, so you want to be sure it's the best for you and your family. Since 2005, thousands have depended on Berkey purified water. The Berkey Guy provides the lowest priced filtration systems in every size for incredibly delicious water now and in an emergency. Get to GoBerkey.com or call 877-886-3653. 877-886-3653. GoBerkey.com.
We'd like to hear from you. If you have a comment or question about the Paracast, send it to news@theparacast.com. That's news@theparacast.com. And don't forget to visit our famous Paracast community forums at forum.theparacast.com.
Please check out plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com. That's where you learn about the Paracast Plus, where we feature the commercial-free version of this show, better quality audio, After the Paracast podcast, Other Side of Truth, audio and video recordings from Paul Kimball, and lots more. The price starts at $1.49 a week, $4.99 a month, and you save even more if you go for longer-term subscriptions. For the year, for 5 years, for the rest of your life. And we're going to be around for a while. The show has been here for 10 and a half years. We've got lots of plans for the next 10 and a half years. With Erica Lukes and Chris O'Brien talking about their travel plans to do investigations, we're also inundated with questions from listeners. Chris?
Yeah, we've got a few here. Again, I think most of this is talking about percentage of gender balance and all this sort of thing. And I really don't think that that's, like I said before, I really don't think those, correct me if I'm wrong, those aren't really the issues that you are addressing, correct, Erica? It's not so much gender imbalance in terms of sheer numbers. It's more of an attitude and an actual ability to actually be taken seriously and heard. Wouldn't you say? Yeah. Would that be more of the nature of your concerns?
You know, I think both of them are valid concerns. I mean, we definitely don't have a lot of women in the field. We need to get more in the field. And I definitely think women aren't coming into this field because they're not necessarily taken as seriously as they should be. And oftentimes people are very quite sexist in this field. And that's not everybody, but that has been seen, and many other women have talked about that. And those are things we need to be cognizant of and we need to address. And I think that people that are prominent in the field need to, and organizations, they need to enforce ethical behavior and fair treatment for everyone.
Wow.
Isn't that also a kind of a society problem still, unfortunately?
Unfortunately, yeah, it is.
It is. Well, and it kind of gets into more of a personal thing here too, and people are saying, well, I don't really want to go into some of this kind of creating value judgments here, but for instance, SRL, who's been posting here, 6 years. He comes out every now and then and posts stuff. And he says, viewed by many as primarily an entertainer, performer, does your guest care if she is believable? Or does she opt to disagree or disregard the critical lenses in presenting narratives that may advance her career? So, I guess that gets into where the investigator researcher hat comes off and the radio host and radio show personality hat goes on. And it's something that Gene and I are constantly dancing underneath a variety of hats. And if you're presenting this type of information to the public, you are in essence entertaining them. So it's, I don't want to sound hypocritical here at all, because I understand, and I get shellacked all the time for being taking it easy on people and not really pinning everybody's ears back, like coming after you and saying, well, all this stuff about equality and blah, blah, blah. And, come back with anything that is not supportive of you. Would be what I think a lot of people would be wanting to hear. And I really refuse to go there because I know when you and I have talked about this already, and now we're revoicing our concerns, that this is a real issue. And there's no way that I am going to sweep this under the rug and say, no, there is no good old boy network. That's preposterous, poppycock.
Right.
Knowing darn well that there is, and I've been totally slammed by the Good Old Boys Network and the Good Old Girls Network, in some sense of the word as well. So,
yeah, it's interesting to me that it's almost like you're, I guess, punished because you enjoy or are good at something, and to me it's like because I spent my entire life doing voiceovers, I was professional singer. I mean, so I am comfortable doing stuff like this, and when that's a skill set that I have that I feel I can utilize to get information out, to make the public more aware of this, to create a dialogue, then, if I'm, I guess if certain people would hold that against me, I guess that's their own problem, because I'm using my skill set, as we all should, to make this a better situation for all of us. And I don't know. I mean, you know how it is having a show. I mean, I know with my radio show, I mean, I pay to have my show.
Yeah.
I pay to do this, to bring people out there so I can expose people to new researchers or people that aren't talked about a lot, that have good, relevant information to share. So it's funny. And I think the more you get into this and you get, I don't know what, kind of just attacked about things like that, you just think, okay, well, I'm doing the best I can. And I know that I'm behind the scenes. I'm dedicating a lot of time, as I always have since I got into this, to researching this in ways that a lot of other researchers are not doing. So I know what I'm doing. And I think, Chris, you've talked to me, you understand what I'm trying to do. I think anybody that knows me understands what I'm trying to do. And that's good for me.
Yeah. It's a lot of it is just, it's absolutely thankless. And, you really do have to be at peace with what your motivations are. If your motivations are anything but pure, if the motive is pure and the means correct, you have and you're lucky, you have a chance to be able to do a proper job. If there's any sort of wobble in the motivation, in the force of motivation, then forget it. You're rapidly going to become your own worst enemy.
The force is with us because we need to do this break.
Yeah.
And so get after lightsabers.
Yep.
Gene, Chris, and Erica, you're in.
You are listening to GCN. Visit GCNlive.com today.
We're all looking for safe, effective, and all-natural remedies for ourselves and our family. The solution is Simplex. Simplex oils provide natural anti-inflammatory and pain relief, antioxidant and nerve protection, and is an amazing topical acne removal and skincare supplement. Natural healing at a very affordable price. Find out more about our non-psychoactive CBD oil products. Go to simplexspecials.com. That's simplexspecials.com.
Paid non-attorney spokesperson Adam Pileski of the Pileski Law Firm with principal office in Houston, Texas is the attorney responsible for the content of this ad. This ad is not legal advice, and the choice of a lawyer should not be based solely upon advertisement. Services may not be available in all states. Attention Xarelto users. If you or a loved one took Xarelto and suffered a serious bleeding event, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Xarelto is a popular prescription blood thinner used to prevent blood clots and protect patients from strokes. These serious bleeding events have led to numerous cases of hospitalization and even death. Phone lines are open 24/7. Call 800-261-0937. That's 800-261-0937.
The following statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Something shocking just happened in a Coast Guard unit in San Diego. The old guys in the unit have turned the tables and are now destroying the young bucks in head-to-head fitness tests. How is this even possible? Turns out the old guys in this unit had been part of a special test group for a doctor-formulated fountain of youth drink called Patriot Power Greens. Patriot Power Greens has been so effective for many of the older soldiers that it's made their achy joints, stiff muscles, and lack of energy a thing of the past. Previously, this drink was only available to elite military units. But for a limited time, the creator of Patriot Power Greens has set aside a small number of free samples specifically for our conservative friends. All they ask is that you chip in a few bucks to cover shipping. To claim your free samples of Patriot Power Greens, go to greens75.com. That's greens75.com. Greens75.com.
Dangerous blood clot device alert. If you or a loved one had an IVC filter placed to prevent blood clots from traveling to your heart or lungs and suffered an injury, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. The FDA warns that IVC filters may cause serious complications, such as heart or lung damage, internal bleeding, and even death. These dangerous blood clot devices can break, and the metal fragments can travel to your heart or lungs, causing serious injuries. If you or a loved loved one suffered organ damage or other injuries from an IVC filter, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Act now. Time is limited to file a claim. For a free consultation and free information, call Injury Help Desk at 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. 800-478-1507. This is an advertisement. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. InjuryHelpDesk.com is responsible for this advertisement. Principal office, Las Vegas, Nevada.
For P150, P150GA, P150NY, P150OK, P150TN, C250A, C250E, C250Q. Not available in all states. If New York or Colorado, call for a similar offer.
What's the scariest thing about going to the dentist? Opening your mouth or opening your wallet? Because just a simple cleaning can cost $100, and things like root canals can cost you hundreds more. If you don't have dental insurance to help, call Physicians Mutual Insurance Company. 1-800-656-4686. This isn't a discount plan or preventive-only coverage. This is real dental insurance that helps pay for checkups right away. So you can call today and get your teeth cleaned tomorrow. Plus, it helps cover the more expensive procedures you might need down the road. Fillings, crowns, bridges, even costly dentures. There's no deductible and no annual maximum. Your acceptance is guaranteed for one of these insurance policies, even if you're retired. There are no networks, so you can choose any dentist you'd like. Call now for a free information kit with all the details. 1-800-656-4686. That's 1-800-656-4686. 1-800-656-4686.
This is Robert Hastings, author of UFOs and Nukes, and you're listening to the Paracast, the gold standard of paranormal radio.
Okay, so was that an accurate sound of a lightsaber?
Yeah.
Think
Or
so.
a bug zapper.
I just wonder, though, in the Rogue One movie where they take a dead actor who's been dead for, 30 years, Peter Cushing, and he plays a big role in the movie.
Oh, really? He was the original general, wasn't he?
And he's in this movie by having somebody about his size and physique, and they use motion capture.
Right.
And dubbed over a photograph of Peter Cushing, and then somebody imitated his voice. Weird. Anyway, that, of course, was greeted by total silence there. Which most things I say are these days, As you get older, the respect level just goes down.
What can I tell you? I didn't get a chance to go see it. I went and saw Arrival. We've never talked about what I thought about the movie Arrival.
That's a good movie, actually. I just saw that last week.
Yeah. I really rather enjoyed it. I thought it was intelligent. Of course, the ending, spoiler alert here, the ending left a lot to be desired and is rather, implausible and kind of like, oh, man, that's the best you could come up with. It's quite highly implausible, the ending, but it works for Hollywood.
Now, of course, when you're watching the woman who was the scientist here, the linguist, does the fact that she also plays Lois Lane in Man of Steel and Batman v Superman, etc.,
no,
she's not typecast anymore?
No. Amy Adams is a very accomplished actress, and she's very good in this, very believable. I've never seen her in any other Superman type movies, so you're asking the wrong guy. I've only seen her in good dramatic roles like this.
Okay. Well, of course, then your mind is not corrupted by the presence in those movies.
Yeah, exactly.
But some really top-notch actors appear in superhero films, and they go out, get nominated for Academy Awards and everything. Yes, by the way, my son and I did see Rogue One, and I thought of the Star Wars kind of movie. It was quite well done. I enjoyed it more than Force Awakens. But that's all I'm going to say about it, because, Chris, you'll probably never see it.
I'd like to. I try to see all the Star Wars movies on the big screen. I think I missed a couple of the ones where it got really dark. The ones in the early 2000s to mid 2000s there, like 2006, 2007. A couple of those I missed, but I've seen most of them in the theater.
Well, a lot of people are, as we are talking and doing this show, the movie has grossed worldwide $817 million.
Wow.
So Disney is making a lot of money from the billions they pay George Lucas for Lucasfilm.
Right.
Isn't it nice that somebody is making money?
Yeah, and J.J. Abrams, I think, isn't he involved?
He was not involved in this particular film. He did Force Awakens, and his production company has done stuff. But his production company, that's Bad Robot Productions, is also doing the Star Trek films. I am not a super fan of the work of J.J. Abrams, by the way.
Oh, boy.
Some more questions from our listeners?
Yeah, I guess. You know, it's all basically pretty much the same thing here. It actually, because you didn't put your foot down and say just ask questions, it basically is now breaking down into people discussing points brought up by the idea of addressing women's role in ufology. Of course, it's sparking lively conversation on our forums.
It is. That's good. And I did notice, because I'm just in the forum, and I just want to say that I love the comments that everybody makes in there. I really think they're pretty awesome, and I learn a lot from them. But I know that there was one person that had not really heard about the American Airlines case. And
that's one that I was going to ask you about. And also just ask about Utah cases in general, and you know, having had your finger on the pulse of the report process there for a number of years. What turns you on about the areas there, and what type of work do you think we need to be doing there?
So what we have noticed in my my former assistant state director of MUFON is now my research partner here, and we've gone through thousands and thousands of cases from the MUFON database from New Fork, and we have identified specific areas where there's sightings clusters. And particularly, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, there are places in the Salt Lake Valley that seem to be kind of on the periphery of the valley. You've got the copper mines, you have the Bonneville Salt Flats, or the Great Salt Lake, the International Airport, Hill Air Force Base, and Dugway. And so the sightings are frequently in these areas, as they have been for decades. And we have a couple different cases that I know, actually more than that, where you have pilots coming in and out of the international airport that are seeing objects. And I had actually one case where I had a friend of mine who's a talk show host, Pat Daniels, who has Fringe Radio, and he is a ham operator, and he was scanning police frequencies one night and overheard a pilot or a member of the flight crew coming over the Nephi area, who had reported that there was, in the first transmission, a large object that was keeping pace with his plane, a large orange object. And then, when I talked to him after he told me about a couple of these transmissions, and he was, after listening and scanning frequencies for a couple decades, he said he'd never heard a conversation like this.
Yeah, what? Give us a time frame.
So that was back in January 14th, and it was
of this year.
Of this year, or 2016, and so it was about 2:08 a.m. And I got a hold of him and was able. I mean, I know that he's a solid human being, and so we got in to the ATC website, and we were able to scan through or listen to different frequencies, and we were able to obtain a portion of that conversation that he was referring to, which further validated what he was saying. And it was from there that I called in Bill Puckett, and we were able to track down the air flight that was in question. And we submitted a FOIA request for radar, audio, and the tower logs. About 8 weeks after we submitted the request, we amazingly enough did get back a portion of the audio,
wow,
which is available and on the UFOs Northwest website. And we also obtained some pretty significant radar, which was curious. And I don't know if you're familiar with William Puckett, but he's done work in this field for 15 years, and he worked on Stevensville. And his thoughts were, after he analyzed the radar, was that this was the most extraordinary case that he'd seen with regard to radar data. And the interesting thing and a great thing for us was that the two towers were so far away from where the sighting took place that we were able to safely rule out any anomalous propagation and things. And so it was a great case. And I will actually, on my UFO Classified website, I'll put the audio that we obtained. And a portion of that we feel was redacted, which is interesting. And then also the radar analysis. And that I'll put that on later today so everyone can see that.
Now, I want to tell you, listeners, unlike the guest last week when she said she's going to update her site, she will. Erica Lukes, Gene Steinberg, Chris O'Brien, you're in
the Paracast.
Thank you for listening to GCN. Be sure to visit GCNlive.com today.
We also have swag. You know, we have all these exclusive Paracast things that you can buy. We've got 60 or so different items, and entails t-shirts, sleeves for notebook computers, iPad cases, mouse pads, the Paracast jumbo tote bag, all sorts of t-shirts and jackets and stuff like that for men and women. We have a Paracast aluminum water bottle. All this stuff, you go to store.theparacast.com, store.theparacast.com. What makes it special is that the items are the best quality, great t-shirts, fabrics, and they have our official logo on them. That's what makes them special, in multiple sizes and colors. We even have stuff for children, stuff for women, stuff for men. We have all sorts of sizes, like small up to X large. A lot of good stuff. That's the swag from the Paracast. You go to store.theparacast.com, stop by, and take a shopping tour.
We're all looking for safe, effective, and all-natural remedies for ourselves and our family. The solution is Simplex. Simplex oils provide natural anti-inflammatory and pain relief, antioxidant and nerve protection, and is an amazing topical acne removal and skincare supplement. Natural healing at a very affordable price. Find out more about our non-psychoactive CBD oil products. Go to simplexspecials.com. That's simplexspecials.com.
Why be held hostage by your wireless carrier for 2 years? What if you had no contract, no activation fees, no hidden costs, tracking, tracing, harvesting customer data, or draconian gimmicks? All on America's largest 4G LTE, GSM, and Sprint networks. Introducing Pix Wireless. Activate your Sprint, AT&T, or unlock GSM phones with Pix, and choose from an arsenal of monthly plans or build your own. Starting at only $2.99 per month. Get connected now. Call or click 1-866-205-9513 or PixWireless.com, spelled PIXWireless.com. Pick Pix and get connected today.
Worried about lead, fluoride, and other contaminants in your drinking water? Get a ProPure with the Pro 1G 2.0 cleanable reusable filter and remove up to 200 contaminants. Drink water the way nature meant it to be. Clean, crisp, and refreshing. See the complete line of ProPure products, including the new ProMax shower filter. There's a ProPure for you. Visit your authorized ProPure dealer for details or ProPureUSA.com. That's ProPureUSA.com.
Good day, America. Are you tired of your butt cheeks being frozen? Tired of cold hands or cold feet? I'm tired of the cold. Well, there's a new kid on the block. It's Fortress Clothing. Fortress will keep you warm. Fortress does what no other clothing company has ever done. We keep you warm in the cold, even when wet. You heard that right, even when wet. No BS, no gimmicks. Work, play, sweat in the cold, and stay warm. So quit your complaining and go to fortressclothing.com. Fortressclothing.com, enter coupon code AMERICA and get 20% off any item. Mittens, jackets, pants, balaclavas, or hot socks. Fortressclothing.com, enter coupon code AMERICA. You're going to love being warm all winter long. Fortressclothing.com.
Is there a stock market bubble in the making? You need an early warning system for your investments because you work too hard to be surprised by your money. Now, guarding your wealth has never been easier. Introducing WealthGuard from OnTheMarkMoney.com, an early warning system that tracks all your accounts. WealthGuard lets you know in advance if your accounts are dropping. It works for all accounts, whether you work with us or not. Get WealthGuard today, 100% free. Go to OnTheMarkMoney.com. That's OnTheMarkMoney.com.
This is Leslie Kane, and I'm with the Coalition for Freedom of Information, and you are listening to the Paracast.
I like the way you're just perky there.
Well, thank you.
And alert.
It happens.
Right. Occasionally I'm trying to stay awake, too. This is late for me. I'm kidding. I'm not that old yet. I don't have to go to sleep every 10 minutes.
Yeah. Oh, man. You sound like how I've been living my life here the last 3 weeks. I wake up and I don't know if it's 6 in the afternoon or 6 in the morning.
Wow.
And I'm panicking, going, what day is it?
You sound like a musician. Good Lord.
Well, I've just been battling this respiratory infection. And, of course, I have to get up at the crack of dawn when I'm driving. So I have to time all my lung sessions with my nebulizer and all. Everything has to be timed. Yeah. So it's getting better, though.
You've got to admit it's getting better, right? It's getting better all the time.
Yes, it is. It can't get no worse.
I knew he'd do that.
Yeah.
I gave him the opening.
So anyway, let's talk a little bit more about some of the cases that you became involved with during your time there as a state director of MUFON.
This was, an exceptional case, and because you had so much evidence to back it up.
Right.
You have somebody in, a crew, an airplane, and that's reliable witnesses. They don't take this lightly, and so that was wonderful. It was wonderful to have the radar and all of that. And to me, it's just important, but it's only a small piece of what's happening. So that's when, a case like this, I'm going back and I'm looking through all of the old cases, including a Blue Book case. And I'm hopefully going to be writing a paper on all of the correlations that I am making here. There's also another case that was a mass sighting in 2014 here, a daylight sighting that took place on October 2nd. And then the next day, there were reports all over Colorado. It was very interesting to see the same types of white spherical objects. They were seen over the Salt Lake Valley. There were 5 to 7 of them hovering, some witness accounts say upwards of an hour, and then departing really quicker than an airplane could, behaving in ways that it's just not possible for conventional aircraft. Again, I requested some radar information and received unreadable text format back from the FAA, which was interesting to me.
Well,
perhaps a little telling.
Thanks for your cooperation.
Again, it's like you look at a case like that, and I'm still getting people coming forward about this case, and then you start looking at some of the other cases that were coming into MUFON and we're still receiving now of the same types of objects. What are they?
Yeah, they're very common in the Rocky Mountain states, especially Colorado, Utah, these silver spheres. And, sometimes they are helicopters seen at just the perfect angle for the sunlight to, bloom out of control, hitting at the right angle with a convex, curved windscreen on these helicopters. I've got footage from our beta run with the San Luis Valley camera project where a small two-man helicopter comes into frame, and it's about the first second you can tell it's a helicopter, and then the sun hits that perfect angle, and the light just blooms into this perfect silver sphere that then shoots across the frame. And all I would have had to have done is cut off the first second and then show just the silver sphere, and it would be some of the most amazing daylight footage you ever saw.
It's interesting. And did you have to go through a process of ruling out, okay, what is the conventional explanation for this? Well, blah, 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 blah. There were some interesting things, and there were some investigators that thought they were Google Loon balloons, which I believe disproven, because first of all, the Google Loon wasn't launching balloons in Northern America at the time. They wouldn't be launching objects that were in the flight corridor for the international airport.
No.
Their balloons, they typically didn't launch 5 to 7 of them. They are subject to the wind patterns, currents, and they don't hover in place for upwards of an hour and then move the way these objects were seen. And they also have transponders, and there was no transponder data.
They know exactly where they are.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, right there, that takes the Google Loon off the table. And then you've got the fact that witnesses were talking about them over the NSA, which is the most highly restricted airspace in the world.
Right.
So there are all sorts of interesting things about this, but we really felt that we kind of put it through the paces, and there was much more to the story. And then you add in the fact that you're not getting the correct information from the FAA.
I was going to say, you're unable to, let's say, put a Freedom of Information Act request in for anything having to do with the NRO, which is that one agency that nobody ever talks about. And they're the ones sitting on the gold mine of data. They're sitting on all that satellite data that's being accumulated every second of every day. And the National Reconnaissance Office. Look that one up, folks. I asked John Alexander, how come you never mention one time in your book on UFOs the NRO? I didn't. No, John, you never mentioned the NRO.
So it's kind of like Jackie Gleason in the days of the honeymooners.
I didn't. That was great. So I don't know.
One more question, folks, before we let Erica leave with Elvis in the building.
Yeah.
All right, Erica, what are your plans for the future here to help get things together in this crazy quilt field?
Oh, Lord have mercy. Well, it will involve a lot of therapy, perhaps some prescription medication. I don't know, not really, but my goals are. I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing, which is reaching out to different people all over the world and trying to compile information, trying to come up with new strategies for researching this. And I hope that I can encourage people to take a different look at this. And I hope that I can encourage people to behave more ethically. And when there's something going on in a field, it's always important to look at both sides. And at the very least, if you're adults, you can reach out and talk to the other person about things to clarify things. And I think that we all should try to do that. And I hope that we can. I really am positive for the future.
Erica, would you tell our listeners where they can find more information about what you do?
Yes, you can go to UFOclassified.com, and I will be trying to update that. And I'm always on my shows, I'm talking about the research and things that I'm involved in. And I will be speaking at the UFO Congress coming up in February, which will be good. And you can find a link to that on my website or find me on Facebook. Send me a message.
Of course, that means she has to buy lunch for me and Chris. That's it.
I will.
Okay, we'll look for the best restaurant, not the most expensive. We're not really like that. In any case,
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
You can also find us on Twitter. Look for the Paracast on Twitter. Also look for 2 official Paracast fan clubs on Facebook. Look for us on the GCN network. And by the way, that's the network that has Alex Jones as their most popular act. On the online streams, last week we've been among the top 7. As we do this show, we're among the top 3. Most popular streams at GCN, which means lots and lots of thousands of people are listening to us. But we offer a special deal for everyone. It's called the Paracast Plus at plus.theparacast.com. What this means is you get a commercial-free version of this show. You get the exclusive After the Paracast podcast. Say that 5 times fast. You also get Paul Kimball's Other Side of Truth and more content coming. Prices range from $1.49 a week, and then we offer monthly subscriptions, annual, 5 years, lifetime. For more information, go to plus.theparacast.com, plus.theparacast.com, where we explain it all. It's been a blast, Erica Lukes. Thanks for joining us on the Paracast.
Thank you. It's always fun. I appreciate it.
The Paracast, featuring Gene Steinberg and Christopher O'Brien, is a copyrighted presentation of Making the Impossible, Incorporated. Tune in next week for a new adventure in The Paracast.